Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to react to a Neil deGrasse Tyson video in which he explains why he's not afraid of death. Great topic. Let's go.
We fear death
You
because we are
bet.
born knowing only life.
Right.
I get that. However, I take another view because I've been asked, if you could live forever, would you?
Yes.
Okay, we're
Don't
done
even
with
have
the
to finish this
interview.
sentence.
Yes.
It's clear what Larry King thinks. He does not want to die. He wants to live forever.
No, okay, sure, that's an attractive idea. But the way I look at it is the knowledge that I'm going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive. The urgency of accomplishment, the need to express love now, not later. If we live forever, why ever even get out of bed in the morning?
Okay. So it's certainly true that knowing that there's a time limit on your life gives you a sense of urgency, right? Like you can't just keep waiting to do certain things. You have to do them sooner rather than later because you're not going to live forever, right? But this last point where he's making is that, well, if you live forever, it really doesn't give you a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Uh, I'm not so sure about that, right? Because there are certain things that you just want to do because you enjoy them, right? Like I like teaching philosophy, right? I like reading philosophy. I like thinking about philosophy. I like having discussions about philosophy. And so I'm going to do them no matter what, right? I'm going to engage in those activities even if I were to live forever. But it's true that there are certain things I would probably keep postponing if I didn't really want to do those things to begin with.
Because you always have tomorrow. That's not the kind of life I want to lead.
But why don't you fear not being around?
I fear living a life where I could have accomplished something and didn't. That's what I fear.
The impression that I get is that Neil deGrasse Tyson is one of those high achievers, right? Like people who are high achievers want to accomplish things in their life. And there is a fear that you're not going to make any difference in the world when you're alive, right? That your life is just going to be a waste, that no one's going to remember you after you die. I think these high accomplishing, high achieving people have that fear.
I don't fear death.
You don't fear the unknown.
I love the unknown. I, I, this, I love it. You know what I want on my tombstone? My sister has this in her notes, because in case I can't tell anyone after I die. On my tombstone, a quote from Horace Mann, great educator. Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity.
All right, so here are some final thoughts. So I'm glad that Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't afraid of death, right? Because, you know, that fear sucks. It's not a pleasant feeling, okay? So the fact that he can accept it and even like he even said that he loves the unknown, right? That's great. That's great. I wish I could feel that way, but honestly, I don't. Like I am on Larry King's side. Like I am a person who does fear death, and I think it comes down to that. I think death is going to deprive me of good experiences, right? Like there are certain things that I find pleasurable. There are certain things that I find fulfilling, right? And the longer I live, the assumption is the more of those experiences that I can have, right? So death deprives me of those experiences, okay? Now, doesn't necessarily mean that I want to live forever. That's a trickier question, okay? It really depends on like how much we're building into this hypothetical, right? Like what do you mean? Like what does life look like for somebody who lives forever? So for instance, you may think you don't want to live forever because all your friends and family would have died, right? And maybe it's going to be hard for you to make new friends. You can't connect with anybody because you're the only one who is living forever, right? So is that going to be part of the hypothetical, or are we building into it that everyone else is also living forever, right? So none of your friends are gone. Like here's another question: like, what is going to be my state of health? I would want to know that, right? Like, am I going to be just like older and older and frailer, but technically alive? Like I don't want to live like that, right? Like, or are we assuming that I'm going to be healthy, right? even healthier than I am now? Like, am I going to be like a 21-year-old self, you know? Then, okay, well, then that's a little different now, right? One argument that I've heard against living forever is from Bernard Williams. And he says that living forever, it would just be extremely boring, okay? Because you would just have all the time to do everything that you wanted. And I think that's an interesting argument, right? Because I mean, again, like if we're talking about forever, I mean, obviously it's an infinite amount of time, right? I mean, there's got to be some point at which you are bored. Okay. I mean, I get bored sometimes, like almost on a daily basis. Okay. And if you were just to extend my life out, to infinity, I mean, there's got to be a lot of boredom. The other thing I was thinking about is that it's not necessarily living forever that's appealing. It's that you just don't want to die when there's still things that you want to experience in life. Okay. So if it were the case, let's just imagine, right, that you can live indefinitely, right, but then choose when to die. I feel like that would be ideal, for me at least. So here's some useful questions to ask yourself, right? How long would you live for if you could choose? Okay. Would you only want to live till 50? What about 150? What about 200, right? We can just slowly increase the number. And for those of you who don't want to live forever, there's got to be some number at which you want to die. Okay. So then the question is, why? Why would you want to die at that point? I'd be curious to hear. Why don't you leave your comments down below? All right. I think I'm going to end it here. I hope you learned something interesting, and I'll see you all next time.